Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Welcome, everybody, to the next chapter with Charlie, where we explore thoughts of understanding your deepest self in light of your deepest everyday life. I'm so excited about our guest today, Dale Kershner, for whom happiness is a virtue. Dale is all about discovery and insight, and he writes this on his website. So and I'm going to quote, he writes this too, and it's written to sort of first-time viewers of the website. And he writes this: if you find yourself itching for something more, something greater, something not yet determined, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to reach out to me for a free 30-minute conversation to explore what might be possible. Well, I'll tell you, this is my free 30-minute conversation.
And everybody else's.
Yeah, and I want to explore that today. So
awesome.
So Dale, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to have you. So, as we have chatted, my listeners know that, I chat with the guests before.
Sure.
You seem to possess a well-lived life. Before I ask my question, can you give us a taste of what your well-lived life might look like?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of stuff out there. I got drug into coaching while I was in China working with a large corporation, and the CEO, who was satisfied with my other work of just some simple consulting and computer construction, asked me to work with 26 of his recently educated MBAs. He sent them to the U.S. to get their MBAs. And he said, okay, so they know lots of stuff about business and none of them are human beings yet. Can you turn them into human beings? And I said, sure, and I took 6 of them at a time on and found their humanity inside of their knowledge. And then when I was done with his, he passed me on to somebody else, who passed me on to somebody else. And here I am 40 some years later and still finding people's humanity for them. And then taking their humanity and finding the peak expression of it for each and every one of them.
This all began as business coaching.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I knew that was my future.
What discipline?
I wasn't terribly specific. I started with that company, which actually was a company that imported raw timber from the United States to China. Then I worked with China National Petroleum, which the purpose is in the title. Let's see, K-Line, which was a transportation company, Nintendo, the list goes on and on. I don't know that I had a specific discipline so much as corporate structure, and then ultimately how to build an effective management team, which then evolved into, leadership development, communication, all of that. And then, bringing that to actual human beings who didn't have a C in front of their title.
That is fascinating. That was, we entered the coaching arena very similarly.
Oh, interesting.
That was mine. I had certain sort of credentials that I came into it with, and I came into it later in life. I had done a number of different things, and I came into it about 40 years old.
Okay.
And before I know it, I'm going all over the country and all over the world, and I'm working with high-level leaders, and they say, can you work, they'd always call them high potentials.
Oh.
Can you work with our high potentials, of course? And,
yes.
We'll treat them as, what do they need to do to go move to the next level? So I get that. I get that. That's fun.
Yeah.
So now you are, we have to say, because you're not going to come off like this, but we have to announce everybody, you and I are both, after we hang up the phone, we may have to take a 4-hour break because we had a 1-hour talk because we're introverts. And so
we are. We are.
So we'll have to go out drinking afterward to recuperate from the conversation. But you were buying, did you say 30 acres?
10, just 10 acres outside
10
San
acres
Diego.
And building property by yourself in the hills of San Diego, outside San Diego.
Correct.
So you could be solid.
And we could say that I like the view, but part of the reason I like the view is because there's no other human beings in it.
I like the view because it's no people that I'm viewing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I told you my thing, and I don't think I've ever told this publicly, but I have a little saying that I go by. I don't like people except for the ones I like. Right. And then I like them tremendously.
Right. I'm constantly telling my own clients that I'm not a fan of human being, but I adore individuals.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, we can somehow figure out how to combine the two.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we I knew when we talked, we're like a couple of fish swimming in the same pond.
We are.
Or similar ponds.
Right.
So let's put the pressure on you now.
Okay, cool.
Here I am, 75 and a contented man. I have gone through this and figured out my life, but there's always with someone like me, there's always something missing. Always something next, always something to come. I'm an adventurer, I'm an explorer, and that's where I'm realizing I'm entering a new season right now. That's why I'm hoping you can help. I'm entering a new season. I'm departing the season and entering the season. I can't define the season from which I'm departing, nor can I define where I'm entering, but I know I'm in a transition.
Cool.
So I want to ask you the question. I find myself itching. Great verb, by the way. Yeah. I find myself itching for something more, something greater, something not yet determined. And I am coming to you for a conversation to explore what might be possible for me. Now, I just wrote, my notes have this: do your thing.
That's perfect. Okay, well, here we go. So what's the very first thought that you have when you wake up in the morning and your eyes come open, you're semi-conscious? What's the very first thing that hits your brain?
Oh, my goodness. What hits my brain is to prepare for my morning ritual. And
Gotcha.
that's where I put my thoughts together. I journal, I do inspirational reading, I meditate. I spend about an hour and a half a day at least going through this process.
Cool.
Every day.
And why? What's the purpose? What's the reason behind doing that?
I'm driven.
Okay. What drives you?
Curiosity is my driver.
Okay. And what don't you know about that you most desperately want to know about?
I can easily fall into a spirit of boredom. I bore easily. I bore with everything easily. And I get to where I no longer want to be productive. I don't want to be producing things, although I want to be purposeful.
Sure.
I don't want to be making numbers. I don't need to be making money. I mean, not, you can always use more,
Sure.
but I mean, that's not a driver of my life. But I don't know what to do with my day. I'm not reading as much as I used to.
Okay.
I don't think I'm habitually using my time well, but there's a reason for that I'm not quite sure what it is.
Right. I think the reason, quite simply, is you haven't discovered what the next challenge is. Is all you're describing is a life motivated by the next challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, we generally, as human beings, believe that the challenges are created outside of us, and that, so we discover what they are. We do our exploration and find the thing that lights our light, and that's the thing then we go chasing after. A slightly different perspective than that is that we invent our inspiration, our motivation, and the nature of our challenges. When you and I spoke before, one thing was clear, that as human beings, both of us, and perhaps everyone, exists on this planet in service of something else, someone else outside of yourself.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
we can eliminate a lot of stuff that would be, almost narcissistic pursuit, like things that would serve you. So we can look in the realm of, okay, what could serve others that not only is a capacity, a capability of yours, but also serves that burning flame inside you that is like that core purpose for your even being here.
Yeah. What information do I need? What inspiration do I need, or would help me in serving others?
There's an aspect. Okay. For me, I dove into that pretty deeply about a decade ago, and discovered for myself that it is important for me that everybody I interact with find their level of peak humanity. And that can be, different things, right? They
I'm
can be
right, so that's why I'm going off right now.
Yeah. No, we're good. You could be the best barista there ever has been on the planet. You could be, the most effective salesperson anyone's ever seen. You could be a leader everyone wants to follow. But there's a kernel inside you that is your expression of whatever that peak humanity is. You already do the work to elevate your humanity to something higher. And everybody's got all sorts of different words for it, but higher being is sufficient.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So you've accomplished that. You've lived enough life to bring wisdom into pretty much whatever you want to bring it into. But now there's a series of questions and or exercises to explore to fine tune the discovery of what that flame is. Okay. So we know it's others. It's not you. There's probably some indication in things you have done in the past. And I would first look at, what have you done that just lights you up? You get a little bit tearful about it whenever you think about, oh, I remember when I did this thing. So if you're moved by yourself for an experience that you've had, there's a source of some of your flame inside of that. Doesn't mean you have to repeat that activity. It means that something was being accomplished that aligns with your being. So that's the first place I would look back. The next thing I would look at is, okay, so you get up, you do your hour and a half preparation, you create your day, and then you have a choice. You either go, let's go accomplish something, let's make a change somewhere in the world, or let's sit down and hang out and, watch soap operas. So there's a decision being made. There's a choice being made there. Now, something has you choose not soap operas.
Right.
Right. So to dig inside of that something, for me, it's like you were talking about us taking 4 hours because of our introversion. Immediately after this, I'm headed to a corporate client to meet with their managers and
Right.
train them how to communicate. So, but that's my juice. That's if ever I'm feeling undirected or down, angry, upset, whatever you want to call it, anything that deflects me from why I'm really here, I get to a client. I get one on the phone. I interact with one. I do this because inside of that is generated the energy inside of me that is who I truly am as this elevated human. And that's, by the time we're done here, I'm going to have so much energy that these people are in trouble at the corporate club.
I get it.
Right?
It.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So there's where
Now
it
what
is
we're going to do when you're done here, I have that kind of energy to proceed.
Right? And that's what there is for you to explore. You're an explorer. So look at that. Also look at the things that you do that are pleasurable activities. We've talked about that you take these cruises, you go travel, there's a piece of that. And I'm assuming it's not the human interaction with lots and lots of people, but there's a piece of that.
Oh, it can be human interaction. I love human interaction.
Right. On a like one-on-one or one-to-few basis.
Or a small group, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, there's a reason why that's the case, and it's not just because you're an introvert, right? For me, I can impact an individual. I can impact a small group. The message gets lost in a room of 250 people. And I've experimented with that. I've led seminars to 250 people, and the small percentage that get the message by the end of the seminar is about what I could have really had an impact with if I'd have just made the group that small.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So there's something for me in that. That's why I curtail large engagements. I just don't do them anymore. I don't think they're effective. You've seen lots of people go to seminars for 3 days. They're wildly energized and took everything away from the seminar they wanted. And then the fourth day, it's like, what was that about?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's gone.
Absolutely.
Right? Where a conversation one-on-one with me will stick with you. It may mess you up. And that's part of my hope too.
Cool.
Yeah. Disrupt whatever's going on already because we want something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, one-on-one, I'm formidable. I'm hard to ignore.
Yeah, you have that personality. Let me tell you one thing I'm struggling with.
Sure.
And I told you it's set. Well, there's a couple of things as you've talked. A couple of things have come to mind. Is it okay for me to?
No, please. This should happen over there where you are anyway.
Okay. I wish that after my morning ritual, I set out a daily plan. I don't create. I'm not a list maker. I don't create a daily plan. I think it doesn't have to be a daily plan by hour, but it has to be more like, these are the kinds of things I would like to embrace today, engage today, and do. And there are not a lot of things that come to mind. And I have not published. I have 4 books published before 2000.
Okay.
And I don't think I've published since then. And I have 2 books in me right now. I have one that I think is very important, and I can't write it. Dale, this is a 2-year, I'm tired of saying on the show, I'm writing a book. I don't want to say it anymore because I know it's a lie. I want to write a book, but I'm not writing a book. And I have chapters. I've done all of that garbage galore.
Yeah.
And then I even got it where I sent it to an editor, and I hated what I wrote. I detested what I wrote.
Right.
And it was, legitimately so. I mean, it was good. I wasn't just being critical.
Right.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was too heady. And I wanted this to be more, I wanted to take a very deep topic and make it very personal and make it very, very, very something that makes a change toward love in their life.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that.
So the first thing that I would say about that is when you say there's two things. One, it'd be more accurate to say you're not writing a book because you're not. You're either writing a book or you're not writing a book.
I'm not writing a book, but I'm thinking about not writing it all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And then when you said you can't write the book, that's not accurate either. You won't write the book. And I think it's useful and powerful to be perfectly and totally honest with ourselves about what's going on. You can write the book. You've written 4 books. You know you can write the book. No question about it. You won't write the book just because something's missing for you that would have you be more motivated to write the book than not write the book.
Okay. I'm in.
And it's for you to create. It's not going to happen external to you. The world's not going to shift in such a way that it's begging you for the book. My second book, I wrote the first book, and you and I have talked about it before, but I wrote the first book, and I wrote it as if I was coaching a client in exactly what I wanted them to get in the book. And I just wrote it in my voice and said it the same way I would say it to you right now. And it ended up being a book. And I published it. Practical Happiness is what it's called.
Yeah,
and,
which is on the show notes, by the way, for folks to pick up if they want to get it. Yeah.
But the second book I wrote came in a different way. I never expected to write a second book. The Happiness book had to be written. It was timely, it was necessary, and I wanted people to get it that I wasn't going to meet face to face. So I wrote that book. The second book, whoever they are, kept me awake all night one night, downloading into me the text of, the concept of, the flavor of, the point of, the everything of the book. And I don't have to do anything with that. I just have to channel what they told me to and put it down on paper.
You're an amanuensis at that point, just writing.
Yeah. I'm just the vehicle. Now, you can create that for yourself as well. You know the topic. You know the message. You know, you've done all that work, right? So the way I would tell you to do it is do it and just sit down and talk through your keyboard exactly the way you would relate it to someone who's sitting across the table from you.
The only thing with that, I don't write like I talk.
Okay, I do.
And I write daily. And I write
as you should.
I write at least 30 minutes a day in a journal.
Yep.
And I can get very personal, but it's not like I talk. I have a writing. It's like I'm bilingual.
Okay.
I have a different writing language. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm not trying to be scholarly, although I think that was the problem with the first draft of this book, is I took a very scholarly topic. I took the Trinity from the view of 13th century theologian Bonaventure, and it turned out to be a theological treatise. And,
what a surprise.
And my editor, who's a wonderful editor, read it and said, "Charlie, I loved it." He said, except I had to read it 2 times to barely understand it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's a failure."
Yeah, that's not the intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would take away the importance. right? Like it sounds like there's a whole bunch of significance attached to the topic, the book, and it isn't. It's not. Nothing's really that significant in the world. Things happen, and then more things happen. So detract the significance of writing the book. Detract the significance of a particular voice, a particular, approach, or, even the title as it's displayed right now is wildly significant. I mean, we're going back to Bonaventure. So hello, right?
Yeah.
Some of the one of the greater thinkers of history.
All time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it would be difficult to dabble in that topic and not feel significant. But it's not. It's words on a piece of paper. That's all it is. Or I guess on a screen nowadays. I'm old school. But it's not significant. Just sit down there and write it.
That, how helpful that is? It's not important. Who the hell do I think I am? And that any book, I mean, I don't care what I read by the authors with the greatest reputation in the world. Their book is not important.
Right.
It's helpful. It has its use. It has its function. Some are more valuable than others, but the book itself, in months' time at most, it will be forgotten. It will be totally forgotten.
At best, good. Yeah, at best, we can hope that we've inspired somebody else by reading or hearing the book to think for themselves. That's everything I hope for in the book that I've put out so far. That something resonates over there where they are, or some new concept is presented to them that they hadn't considered, so that they for themselves can now invent something more powerful for themselves.
Oh my. And to offer a unique framework to think.
That's why we're here.
Not telling you what to think or how to think, just offering a framework.
Stimulate others to think for themselves.
Okay. You've solved the answer.
Good.
I'm writing right now. To think for themselves. That's beautiful. That's really. I think that's it. Is I've just placed too much importance on it, and because there's nothing else written on it. I mean,
right.
It's hard to take. It's hard to say you take a concept as large as a Trinity, and say no one has gone through this window, and for some reason, theologians for 700 years. For 700 years, 700 years, have ignored St. Bonaventure.
Sure.
Have not ignored St. Bonaventure, but they've ignored his basic thinking on Trinity and the divine love of one person of the Trinity that spreads out the rest of it to the entire Trinity.
Sure.
And it's been ignored. And it's the troubling thing is it's so simple. It is not complicated. And yet I made this book so damned complicated.
Well, even more significant in that you'll be the only one. So how crucial is it, since you're the sole source in 700 years for this topic, that, it must be perfect. Holy crap. What a box you have worked yourself into.
Good thinking, bro. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, let's get off of me.
Okay, cool.
I'm getting bored with me.
Okay.
So, but
I'm not yet, by the way, just so you know.
oh well, you can always climb back in, but
Okay, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm hosting, but I'm putting you in charge of the show.
I gotcha.
I've got another question. There's another thing you wrote. I mean, I did read more than your introduction on your website, but it was so brilliantly written. It was so appealing, and so I don't know what kind of responses you get, but it's begging for a response.
I think if anyone makes it to the website, which of course is not that often, I think that it's had a proportional response.
Yeah, it has an appeal. It has an appeal. And you write this, then I'm really curious after your experience, especially after what you said. You put here, you wrote, now I will quote you.
Okay.
I have lived a varied and extraordinary life. I love that you just admit that. I've lived, I never say I lived an extraordinary life, although I have. Because, you think extraordinary, I've got jet airplanes and all that sort of thing. I don't have that.
Yeah.
But I've lived an extraordinary life. But I've lived a varied and extraordinary life. And I am excited to pass concepts and ideas on to a new generation to give them a leg up so that they don't have to make some of the mistakes that I made in order to learn the lessons I have learned. Give me an idea. What have you found in your years of doing this? What are a couple, 2, 3, whatever, I don't care. What lessons do you find yourself regularly teaching students?
Okay, so the very first one that I start any of my coaching with is it's all made up. Nothing is, and this is a rough phrase, especially without some background, nothing is true. There are things that happen, and there are the things that we make up about the things that happen that we call truth.
That is so true.
Right? Yeah, it's
accurate.
Right. The person, switches lanes from my left lane to right in front of me, and they only left 2 feet in front of my car. And that's what happened. And immediately, most humans, I got cut off. What an asshole, whatever you want to say. Right?
Like I'm important all of a sudden.
Exactly.
To this car in front of me.
We don't know anything about that person or why they changed lanes. Maybe they were in a hurry to get somewhere. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe whatever it was. But we have our truth instantly in what a jerk. So I think the very first thing that I ever explore with anybody is stop pretending like the things you're making up are the truth. They're just stuff you're making up. And you've been making them up probably from the time you were conscious, say 2, 3 years old. And mostly you make them up consistent with a view of life that you created back then. So most of your life experience is based on a pissed off 3-year-old. Maybe it's time to upgrade the conversation. So that's the very first thing I start with is nothing is true. All of it's made up and you're making it up. And then the second thing is you can make it up any way you want. Instead of what a jerk, you could make up, I'm sure he's in a hurry to get to his wife at the hospital. Or anything else, a million reasons for any particular thing that happens. And when you get good at that, when you start to practice that, you've been doing it your whole life. You just weren't conscious of the fact that you were doing it. When you get good at creating your own meanings out of intention rather than habit, then you get to create all your meanings with empowerment. And you can empower yourself in every meaning you create. I broke the machine at work.
Explain more about that.
Yeah.
I love you. Create the meetings with empowerment. I love that. That's powerful.
So I'm on the operating line, and the machine that I feed my parts into, I broke it. I fed a part in incorrectly, and it broke the machine. Okay, so I can either make up, oh crap, I'm going to get fired, or I can make up, I really get to learn this lesson well, that if I feed this thing in incorrectly, it's going to break the machine. I'll be very diligent from now on about not feeding the machine that way.
Right.
And aren't I amazing that I learned that lesson in one iteration rather than it taking several? But everything can be viewed that way. You know, I got in a traffic accident. Well, it's an accident. I didn't intend it. And whether it was my fault or the other person's fault is completely irrelevant. It happened. Now, how do I make the best of it? Well, first of all, I don't freak out at the other person. I get that accidents happen and that we have insurance, and insurance will handle the problem over time. And I just need to get their information and provide mine and try to make them as comfortable as possible, because they're a less informed human being and they're freaking out right now and I'm not. So let's go about it that way. Or I'm ordering coffee, and ordinarily I'll be staring at my phone and, you know, doing YouTube videos while I blurt out my message to the barista about what I want for coffee. Or instead, I could put the phone in my pocket, I could engage that other human being, and I could choose to make a difference in their life in the 30 seconds I have to order my coffee. So that's the meaning I add to order coffee.
And you become the most popular person in the coffee shop.
And everybody thinks you're an amazing listener, speaker, you know, all this stuff, regardless of what you do, just because you actually asked about that person's day and pretended to actually care about that person's day.
You know, one of the things I've heard about this, and I want to come back to truth, because I so agree with you on truth. I mean, I think we live in a world, a post-enlightenment world of truth that is damaging.
Yes,
it is very damaging. Truth is not even true in science.
No.
They're always disproving it. Not always, but so frequently disproving it. But you know what you have talked about when you talk about traffic accidents and a barista? It is all about considering there is more existing on this planet than me. There are other people that are going through equally or perhaps greater issues. And if I make that part of my raison d'etre, my purpose is, as we have said, to serve other people and to be kind. Was it you and I that were talking about being nice?
Yes.
Just be nice. Yeah. You know, we love the word love, and kindness is a big word in my vocabulary.
Yes.
But to frame it, it's just be nice. If we just try to be nice, do you know what kind of a different? Forget the planet. My role is to not change the planet.
Yeah.
My role is to impact my world. Mm-hmm. My world is the tiny bubble that I live in. That's all I can do is impact that. And if I'm always considerate of other people, and I mean always, now that's not easy, because there's times I quite freely choose to be a dick, and mm-hmm. and that's going to be, and I'll come back and regret that.
Yeah, sure.
And I will use that as one of my breaking down the machine and say, oh, didn't I learn something here? Or am I ever going to learn something here? Because that is a lot of what you're talking about. Your overall purpose of helping people comes into everything you do, doesn't it? It's not just in these big issues of service. It's in the little issues of everyday encounter with human beings. We say, I say I may not like people, but I'll tell you that does not mean I'm not kind and I'm sensitive and I'm not gracious
Right.
and I'm not caring.
I made a promise to myself. I do this periodically, and I actually didn't put much thought into it. This was an accidental promise, and I made it to someone else because that's the best way to create something in reality, is have other people hear it. So this person who is also a coach, and we work together and have a company together and things like that. But I declared to her, I said, look, from this moment forward, I refuse to have a conversation with any other human being where I don't make a difference, no matter what. And so I made that promise. And I didn't give it much thought ahead of time. And then the next thing I did after having made that promise is I walked down the hallway from my loft, jumped in the elevator, and went down 4 floors. And this woman came in on the 3rd floor. And I didn't know her, and I'm sitting on my side of the elevator going, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything to her, because as soon as she started a conversation, I had to make a difference. And I hadn't quite figured out how to do it. Right? So she says hi, and I go, crap. Okay. And so I put my brain into overdrive and go, oh my God, those are lovely shoes. They match your purse perfectly. And then we got to the bottom. She goes, well, thank you. That's a very kind thing to say. And walked out, and I had made a difference.
You made a difference. And do you know what you were?
Pardon?
You know what you were?
What?
You were nice.
Yeah.
How do you make a difference?
How easy.
How do you make a difference? Show people love.
Right.
Be nice.
Look, the barista example is one of my favorites, because every time I order coffee, I ask the barista how they're doing, and they fine, because what everybody says, it doesn't mean anything. And I say, no, I really mean, I want to know, how is your day going? Is today a good day? Is today a bad day? What is it? And this, this happened this morning. I said, oh, and how are you about that? How does that feel for you? Can you leave that behind and have the rest of your day be amazing? And that's typically what happens before I say, oh, I would like a Trente, with extra sugar-free.
Trente, look at you. You're a big drinker.
Yeah, but not very often. So, right. But I took that on, and I would say probably in the line of about 96% success since that time, about 10 years ago, that I've never entered a conversation that I haven't made a difference.
I like that a lot. I am I'm a morning Starbucks fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. So I mobile order, and I have 2 drinks. I get one way most of the time.
Right.
And every now and then I'll get a second one. But I go to the same Starbucks. It has been I've probably been mobile ordering there for, I'm trying to think back on how long I've been doing this process, and I'm sure it's longer, but it feels like 2 or 3 years, but it could be longer. But I know most everyone in the coffee shop. I know their names.
Yeah.
There's one of them that, I was taking Spanish at the time, so I practiced Spanish with her, and we would ask each other how we doing in Spanish. And the others, they're very busy. I have to be considerate of their time. They've got so many customers to take care of. But they, I can tell they look forward to Charlie showing up.
Right.
It's just it's a 30-second passing.
Right.
60 seconds would be long.
Right.
Because but it's just, we have good relationship. If we saw somewhere on the streets, we would be friends. We would sit and have a long conversation.
Yeah.
But it just starts with that kind of relationship.
That's it.
And so I make a difference in a handful of Starbucks baristas, employees.
Yep. Every day.
Yeah.
How rewarding is that?
What's that?
How rewarding is that?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
My wife wonders, she found a coffee shop that's 4 minutes closer.
Okay.
Literally. Yeah. I'm not kidding. I didn't just, it's really just 4 minutes closer, but it's closer. You should be going there. And I say, are you kidding? This is like my family.
Yeah.
This is
it's
where I go.
It's not just the coffee.
I go to this Starbucks and they make it exactly like I like it every time, because that's the way I get it. It's because I like it, because they're my regulars. So that's the way I regularly get to it. Starbucks is pretty consistent no matter what, although.
Yes, indeed.
Although I get kind of a complicated order.
Gotcha.
Yeah. How fun. So let's veer back a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think, you were in the middle of talking about a theory and truth came up in the theory. And so we didn't get a chance to delve into truth. I think there's really something that you have to say about truth. I have been thinking of theology and science, and there is a great blend of theology and science. I think there's a great blend of theology and science, a great blend.
Yep.
But not in post-Enlightenment science of truth and validity. You must verify. You cannot. How do you justify and verify belief? I can't. No, and I just say I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. This is what I believe. And there was something I'm thinking about now that I just think about how I just made it up. Oh, my whole life is making things up.
Of course it is. So is everybody else's, by the way.
What's that?
So is everybody else's.
Yeah, except they don't want to no one wants to do that because they don't trust themselves, because we're taught not to trust ourselves. We're taught just to trust our values.
Isn't that stupid?
It is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I want to dive in, so I'm going to.
Dive in.
Okay, so truth. The only truth I'm aware of that I can't controvert is that there is no truth. We talk about scientific fact, and even if you talk to a scientist and you present it this way, a scientific fact is an experiment that's been conducted 1,000,000 times with the same result. And the scientists will admit that the 1,000,000th and first time they try it, they may get a different result. So it's only fact until proven otherwise, which, as we talked about before, many scientific facts have been, converted, with quantum mechanics and all this kind of stuff, right? So then you start to look at truth itself as a concept. Well, it's individual. My truth is different than somebody else's truth. It's situational. What's true in this particular case is different for another case. One of my favorite ones is, well, it's immoral to murder. Okay. In defense of your children, is it immoral to still murder someone who's threatening them? Okay. So situational, individual. It's also, we've taught that there's a collective consciousness, and if more people believe a thing than fewer people, then that's right, and the fewer people are wrong.
That's our democratic view.
Yeah. So if we eliminate concepts of right and wrong, good and bad, true and false, completely, and work inside a construct of workable and not workable. So what's workable for me, individual, I can run around naked in my house and nobody cares. I can't do that at the mall. Somebody will care.
Yeah.
Right? So if I work inside of workable, not workable, then I don't have to worry about good or bad, because what's good for me may be bad for them, and vice versa. But workable in society versus not workable in society is fairly clear and defined by the majority. So when I coach people, I don't coach from right or wrong, good or bad. We don't talk about that. We talk about, okay, what you're doing, is it A, in integrity, and B, is it workable? And of course, I have a very specific definition of integrity as well. But truth never plays a role for me because everybody comes to me with different truths.
Oh, my goodness. So tell me, what is integrity then?
Integrity is honoring your word, pure and simple. So you give your word to something and you A, do it, or B, you manage yourself for when you can't possibly do it as you promised. So I'm going to be at the meeting at 3:00 this afternoon. There's a massive pile up on the only road between me and the meeting. So as soon as I know I'm not going to make my 3:00 promise, I contact the person responsible and I let them know, look, I promised this. I won't be doing that. It doesn't even matter why, there's a pile up and all that kind of stuff. Everybody's very interested in the reason and I don't care. But I'm not going to be able to do that. So here's my new promise. If everybody's willing to stay around until 4, I can be there by 4 and I will then conduct the meeting.
Yeah.
Or let's schedule this for a different day when it will work and I don't have to worry about that. And I'll leave an hour earlier just in case there's another pile up on the road.
I love that because I think too often with the word integrity, there's something almost impersonal about it that we use it, that it's this value that's assumed that it's not a personal. Integrity begins with me, with my decision of who I am, what my word is. Am I consistent not only with my word, but am I consistent with my person? Am I consistent with what is expected of me? Because that is what I have taught people to expect of me. Now, if they have false expectations based on something else, I just tell them, we're going to lose here. This is a losing deal. Yeah, I like that. And then a comment as we're winding down, but a comment. I'm a big follower. You probably have never heard of him. He's kind of a religious guru guy, Richard Rohr. He has a group that's called the Center of Action and Contemplation. Okay. It's not super huge, but a few million. Sure. So Richard's done okay, but he's very, very, he's strongly known for non-dual thinking. And what you were defining as dualistic thinking is right or wrong. Right. And that we have taught in sort of our Greek culture of right and wrong thinking, this and this. And, there's a whole different cultural design that is a both and that we're working together and that we need to understand from both sides and accept and endorse what belongs to us and then accept what doesn't belong to us but belongs to somebody else, to say, I'm not you. Right. I may not endorse this, but I'm not coming after you. Right. Well, my friend, we are hitting the topic that I think, I think we've sort of settled on. I like this settled on. I think that's what I want to close your aspect of the show with, and that is, when I talk to people, I want to make a difference. That's a nice walk away. What if we really thought that, Dale? You think that. What if more people really thought that? I want to make a difference. Way to go. Great job. And it's pretty easy to accomplish if you really, put thought into it and just go after it. It is. I am, one of my, I call it gifts. One of my gifts is a gift of encouragement. And I live for that. But it's not false encouragement. I don't just encourage everybody, but I notice the way people are dressed. and I will notice a handbag and a pair of shoes. I will notice that's a great outfit. I was in a conference and a woman was getting on a bus, and I said, "Do you know?" Thinking of her name, it wasn't Laura, but we'll just say Laura. You know, Laura, when you walk, just your presence, you have an aura. You just have this aura of goodness, an inviting aura of goodness.
Yep.
And her husband said, you know, you're absolutely right. She does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, man. Dale Kershner, thank you so much for spending time with me today on The Next Chapter with Charlie.
Completely my pleasure.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody tuning in to The Next Chapter with Charlie. Thank you for tuning in. Until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.